Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business of Business podcast. I'm your host, Roy. Of course, we are the podcast that brings you a wide variety of guests that could talk about a wide range and diverse set of topics. We want to help our small business people, our solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. We want to point things out that you may not even be aware of exist, but we also want to try to help you with some existing problems. So today we've got an awesome guest I've been waiting for a week or so to talk to. I'm excited. It's Curtis Boyd. He is with Objection.co. And I'm going to first off, before we get into what Curtis does, I'm going to let him tell his story. It's such an interesting one. I didn't want to take a chance on reading it and not having the right flavor. So I've asked him just to tell a story. I think it's an awesome story. So Curtis, welcome to the show. And thanks so much for taking time out of your day to be here.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Roy. Yeah, my story is a fun one. It starts about 9 years ago. I was a nursing assistant working in a hospital, and I bathed patients. I took care of them. I fed them. I took care of people who couldn't take care of themselves, bottom of the food chain. And that being said, one day a doctor came onto the unit and he started complaining about a bad review that he just got. And I was in a bad mood, so I started complaining about my student loans, and we kind of got a laugh about it. And he kind of sarcastically said, "Well, if you can get this bad review off, I'd pay for your student loans." And I was like, I kind of rolled my eyes at him, and I was like, "Well, doctor, like this is, I owe about $32,000." He rolled his eyes right back at me, and he said, "I probably lost $150,000 just this week from this bad review." He's like, I charged $10,000 to $15,000 a surgery, and I lost 15 consults at least that I could count this week because of this bad fake review. And he's like, "So Curtis, I'm not joking. If you can remove it, I'll take care of your student loans." So I was like, wow. At the time, I was a nursing assistant. I didn't know about business. I didn't know about contracts. I didn't know how the exchange of money worked in exchange for services or goods. But anyway, my mom worked at the hospital at the same time. She vouched for him. She said she knew who he was and he was a good guy. So if he said it, he was probably good to go. The next day I called his office, his private office, and verified with his assistant, the secretary, that just wanted to make sure like that we're good. If I could really do this for him, he'd really pay that amount. And she was telling me, how he had hired lawyers, how he hired marketing consultants and reputation guys, and no one was able to help him. And so I was like, okay, I'm on the case. Like, we don't need to sign anything. I don't know anything about this. I'm challenge accepted, because I knew it would take me probably 2 to 3 years of nonstop saving to make that kind of money, right? To just all at once have that kind of fun, that kind of money. So I was like, okay, let's do this. 24, 48 hours of me banging my head against the wall, trying to do everything I could that I knew. Like, I failed miserably, right? I was like, I'm computer literate. I'm competent on computers. I'm sure I could figure it out. Got nowhere. I had about $800 in my bank account at the time. I bought an airplane ticket to San Francisco to stake out employees that worked at a certain company. And I literally hung outside the building, and I would ask people walking around the building, "Hey, I'm sorry, excuse me, do you work at this company here? Do you work there?" No, I don't need any money. I need to know, can you help me remove a bad review? I've got a doctor in Los Angeles. He's got a fake review. I'm trying to remove it for him. I need help. And then, no, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I did that for 3 days. Hundreds of people. And I felt like a crazy person because I didn't know what I was doing. I was a young kid just trying to solve a problem. I was 23 years old at the time, pretty much broke, just desperate to try and solve this problem for this doctor. Anyway, on the third day, I met a girl at the time. She worked in the very specific department at that company. And she took me to a Starbucks. It was right down the street. And she sat down with me. And she took about 20 minutes of her time that changed my life. She wrote step by step. She instructed me what to do on how to get that illegitimate review removed from the site. And I implemented it that night. And about 48 hours later, I had a check for $32,000 and a physician
Wow.
who started raving about me, right? He was on the board of directors for that entire physician network. So within a week, he had referred me to almost 670 doctors, right, for the whole medical center. He taught me how much to charge per month. He set me up with a bookkeeping CPA guy. And before I know it, I'm running an online reputation practice, disputing illegitimate reviews for doctors. One reputation, one physician network turned to 5 or 6 over a few years. And before you know it, I had a thriving business. I ended up going back to school. I heard that AI was going to replace our jobs, that AI was going to take over, right? And I was like, well, if AI is going to replace me, I may as well be the one to build it. So I went back to school to learn how to code, and I started a software company that could look at reviews the same way that I do, that could look at reviews and make a determination if they qualify for removal based on all my years of knowledge and doing this as a service for so many businesses. And that's exactly what Objection.co does, Objection.co does. We use technology not only to identify illegitimate reviews at scale, but to actually do all the fulfillment at scale, to write out these letters and disputes and flags to the administrators at all these different review sites. And that way, computers get to focus on fulfillment while I get to focus with my sales team on growing the business.
Wow, that is such an awesome story. You talk about being, in the right place at the right time, but also listening to somebody's problem and thinking, hey, you know what? I could solve that problem. So, I mean, what a success story.
I didn't know if I could. I just knew that if I actually did it, like if I really was able to solve this for him, I would, I was going to have all this money. I didn't know what I was going to do with that money, but I was going to have it at least, right?
Right.
And for me, that opportunity, I just couldn't pass up. It was too big of an opportunity. Like I took weeks, and finally took the courage to say, you know what, like I'm not, I need help, and I don't know who can help me. I've called everyone I could think of. I've called, all the people willing to talk to me. I need to go there, and I need to do it. And so I ended up just doing it, and it ended up panning out.
Yeah. And perseverance too. That's it, sticking with it. So that's awesome. So, let's just talk about how big of a problem this is before we go too much further. I mean, because it is a problem, but how big of a problem would you estimate this to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. In 2020, Google on their blog published that they removed 55 million illegitimate reviews off Google Maps. And that's just
Wow.
Google, right? That's not Yelp, that's not TripAdvisor. So Google had 55 million fake reviews on their platform. It's a huge problem. A lot of illegitimate reviews. A lot of competitors, unfortunately, are paying these astroturfers overseas to defame their local competition because they want to outrank them, right? They want to have a higher star rating. They want to have more, they want to be look better online than their competitors. And for those business owners who don't have any ethical dilemma doing that, they're getting away with it right now too. They're spending money hand over fist on these fake reviews.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, that's probably a hefty estimate, but just for your doctor alone, $150,000. And he said that was in the last week that it cost him that.
That's right. That's right. He thought that in his private practice, he probably lost 150 grand that week.
So we can multiply about half that times is 55 million, and that's an astronomical number.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know doctors made that. I didn't know cosmetic surgeons made that kind of money. Turns
Yeah.
out they do, and
Yeah.
it opened my eyes to the world a little bit. Working as a nursing assistant, making $11 an hour and change, learning that some people make 150K a week.
Yeah. Right.
Kind of widen your eyes a little bit.
Yeah. So, first off, let's talk about how do we tell if we do have a bad review? Is this something that we should be looking through? Because I don't know. I'm sure the Google Maps. I don't know if if you have the account, if you get dinged if, I mean, like you get an alert if you get a review on that, or what should people do to help themselves here?
Yeah, absolutely. When you're getting your business started, it's really recommended that you get all your listings set up, right? And that includes your Google My Business, that includes your Yelp profile, that includes a lot of other social profiles that are out there. That's really good for your local SEO, right? And it's not just for like the notifications, which are great once they start coming in, but really to get your online presence really set up.
Right.
There's a list of about, I'd say, 300 directories that you want to get your business on that have
Oh,
the NAP data, the name, the address, and the phone number. You Google a phrase like business directory listings list, the ultimate business directory list, right? And you can
right.
you can just do it one by one yourself, or you could hire a freelancer to fill them all out for you. But that's certainly an important thing. And once you do claim your business, once you do get your business on Google My Business, and once you do get your Yelp listing set up, you want to claim it, make sure you're the admin, and that way you receive all the notifications anytime there's any type of engagement, whether it's a review or someone's messaging you, and they'll notify you for sure. But also, what I recommend setting up are Google alerts. These are Google alerts also will notify you anytime someone creates an article or someone creates a Google post about you, either by your name as a keyword or your business as a keyword, and you'll be notified via email anytime it hears something about you. It's like a free social listening tool.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome advice. And so, we talked a little bit, excuse me, in our initial conversation, as you go through time, something's going to happen. And I look at the reviews as a good thing, legitimate reviews. Let me clarify. I look at legitimate reviews as a good thing because I can't always monitor every piece of my business. So if something else is not happening right, it may clue me in that here's a process or an employee, or here's something that needs fixing that I can actually get a handle around. And so, we talk about we need to engage with that review, let people know, hey, sorry. And it's a delicate technique because we don't want to, we don't want to start a firefight with, I don't know, you don't know what you're talking about. We didn't do this. Because all of a sudden now you've just taken a little kernel of something that could be fixed and you've really blown it into this big bonfire. Whereas if you address it, say, hey, sorry, we're fixing it. What can I do to make it right? That really shows to a lot of other people that, you've got your stuff together. So can you comment on that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So when you get a bad review, the first thing you got to do is figure out who's it from, right? Like, who is this person and what's the relationship to my business?
Right.
If it's from a customer who had a personal consumer experience with you guys, they have every right to review you, right? And every reason to review you because they had an experience with you, whether it was good or bad. Anyone else, it kind of goes along the lines of maybe they shouldn't be on there, right? But
Right. Right.
for if your business that gets a legitimate review from a customer who's unhappy, yeah, the first thing you want to do is privately, take the conversation offline and try to provide a secondary experience. Roll out that red carpet, do whatever you can to provide a secondary experience that inspires them to come back online and say, you know what, they screwed up, but I'm really, really, you know, I'm really excited that the business owner did this, and that for me. He really cared. I
Right.
was really shocked by how much this company cared, and I'm so glad that they were able to take care of this for me. Because like for me personally, in the reputation space, if I'm going to hire an expensive consultant or an expensive roofer or solar company, like doesn't matter what they do, if I see a 1 star turned into a 5 star, right off the bat, I know that that company cares about customer satisfaction, and I
Right.
know that if they screw up, they'll at least try to make it right.
Right. Right. Yeah. And so, that's pretty simple philosophy for legitimate, when we can trace them back to, yes, they were a customer, they did business. But so let's talk about this illegitimate factor, because I guess the reality, and I'm not that big of a rater. I mean, I've gone out and give some good reviews when I've had superior service or it needed it. But can I just get on anybody's, can I just review anybody's service? Or, I guess let's take the local restaurant up here. I could just jump on there and give them a negative review without ever having stepped in their door.
Technically you can, but the review may, violate the content guidelines, right? Or the terms of service of a given review site. So,
Okay.
whether it's a community member who, participates on that site, or a moderator or an administrator, they can flag your content and remove it, based on what your review says. Now, if you what happens a lot of the times is people who kind of know how the review sites work, even though they never had an experience with a company, in the content they'll say that they did, right? They'll lie and they'll say, you know what, I hired these guys and they were horrible, yada yada yada. So when the administrators look at it, the administrator is going, why do you want us to remove it? It says that they worked with you, and it says that they had a real, like a legitimate experience with you. Like, that looks legitimate. Why do you want us to remove it, right? And even though it's completely fake. So that's when business owners then will come find a company like ours and say, hey, look, like we're having trouble here. We get 2 to 3 reviews a week for the last month and a half like this. We were at 4.5 star, now we're at like 3.6, and it's hurting our sales team. Like, our sales team's getting killed. Like, objection after objection is lining up. Like, their customers are afraid to work with us, and Google or whatever site isn't removing them. Like, they're not listening. Like, they're not agreeing with us. They're not doing anything about it, and we're I feel like we're starting to go under.
Yeah. And so, the other thing I was going to ask quickly now, do you target the services like the Googles and the Yelps? Or let's just say for me, I've got a blog. If I just wrote in that uh, I had terrible service from XYZ company, do y'all pick that up as well, or is this mostly confined to the rating sites?
So yeah, sites like Google and Yelp are really our main point of focus, because it includes content
Okay.
and the star rating, and it involves a business. As a
Okay.
B2B SaaS company, that's our main point of focus, is helping businesses with their online reputation. And yeah, I mean, sure, there's like forums and review sites, like Piss Consumer and what have you, where you can complain about businesses, but it doesn't include a star rating. It just gives you a place to rant and write about your experience as like
Okay.
an article.
And I guess the other significant difference I'm speculating here is that I could write a blog about anything. The chances of that local consumer actually seeing it are probably pretty small. Whereas these ratings that you're targeting, when you pull up something on Google, usually they have the ratings that kind of fall right under them. So they are kind of present in your face.
Absolutely. Because customers, once they learn about your business through some sort of marketing channel, right? They engage with you, they get a quote, and then before they hand you the credit card, they do research, they do their due diligence, right? And they if it's not a word of mouth referral and they really trust you and like you, they're going to look at your online reviews, especially if what you sell is over $2,500. There's a lot of research that anything above 2,500 bucks, that due
Mhm.
diligence starts to skyrocket. 80 to 90% of consumers are
Wow.
going to do their due diligence if the ticket is more than 2,500 bucks. So once that happens and your ratings are not so good, they're going to scare off your estimates. They're going to scare off all the people you've already invested time pitching and proposing to, and your conversion at the bottom of at your sales funnel is going to plummet. There's a lot of research on this. Harvard did a great study, as well as Stanford, and what they said is, for every star rating you're missing, you can attribute that to 9 to 20% of your annual revenue, right? So if you're missing 2 stars, that's 20 to 40% of your annual revenue just gone.
Yeah, and that's another great reason that we should always follow up and ask our customers if you're happy and satisfied to, please rate and review us so we can kind of build up those good ones. Because I don't know if this is still a good fact or not, but used to, they said customers that were mad at you would tell 8 people how bad you were, whereas a happy, satisfied customer would tell one.
That's right. That's exactly right. I think those numbers are even higher.
Yeah.
I think it might be 11, but yeah, it's crazy. Customers, when they pay for something, they expect it, right? I just gave you
Right.
money, like you do your job, right? Do whatever it is I've hired you to do. Thank you, right? And
Right.
but that's kind of it. Like, you know, businesses, they want to earn reviews, but unless they're really providing outstanding experiences, they're
Right.
not going to generate that feedback because customers are like, well, I paid you. Like, what more do you want? Oh, you want a review? Like, I'm sorry, like that like I'm not being like, what am I getting out of this, right?
Right. Right.
So that's why it's so hard to get lots of business reviews.
Yeah.
And what I try and tell all my customers is that in order to generate 5-star reviews, you know, they need to generate 5-star experiences. And on top of whatever it is that they took money for, that product or service, they need to go above and beyond that in order to get that 5-star review. Because if you want something extra from your customer, you need to give them something extra, not money, right? Not like bribing them, but a little thing, like lots of little things. And
Yeah.
I can give you an example. I was at a car dealership and I was looking to buy a car, and as soon as I got on the lot, they're like, yeah, we're gonna wash your car and polish your tires for you, whether you buy a car or not today. And they did. Right, like without asking for anything, like without me purchasing a car, without me leasing anything. They, right where I parked the car, they took care of my car. They did something that they didn't have to do just to make me happy, right? Just to make my experience better with their dealership, and it worked. Like I was like, wow, that's really fantastic. So I like to encourage business owners to just go above and beyond what it is they were originally hired to do if they want to earn 5-star experiences. Just blow them out of the water.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice to get people to do that. Just because it is so hard to get, like you said, I've exchanged money for a service. So I'm pretty much, as a consumer, I'm done. And if you ask me to do something extra, it's got to be over, we've got to be over normal. So it's for myself, working with a handful of clients. I mean, I could tell pretty quickly if it was one of my clients, but let's say the pizza place down the street or a larger business that just has a lot of churn, what is a clue that a review is not from a legitimate customer?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, uh, Sometimes they say it like right in the review. Like, I used to work here, and the manager, Tom, is such a, this and that. Like, sometimes they'll
Right.
just state it in the review, and you'll be like, what? Like, I get, like, we had, like, when we fired you, like, you weren't happy, like, but you're not technically allowed to write a review for us, right? And those
Right.
administrators, they'll remove that review. But
Yeah.
of course, you want to take a look at the content. Does it sound like a normal experience? Because you're living and breathing in what your business does. You know exactly what type of experiences that you're
Right.
churning out. Does it sound okay? Like, does it sound kind of right? And then also you want to take a look at the profile. Like, actually click on the profile, because on Google and Yelp, what's really great about these sites, unlike a lot of other sites, you can actually click and do some research on who this person is. Where do they live? What other businesses have they been reviewing? If it looks filled out, complete, organic and stuff, most likely it's probably a real person. Now, the con artists are getting better at doing a better job with this, but yeah, just spend a minute or two just clicking around to see what the behavior of this profile looks like, and try and make a determination for yourself.
Yeah, and I have seen where there's been accidents that, for a bigger chain, like I went to, pizza place number one and pizza place, I reviewed pizza place number two accidentally. So it doesn't hurt to go through those and just make sure also that it's even your business. And sometimes it's a matter of reaching out and saying, hey, are you sure it was us? Can you give me some details, and see if they'll even respond to you? Most of the time, legitimate ones probably will.
Absolutely. When you message people privately through Google or through Yelp, most real customers will respond to you. Yeah, absolutely.
So how long does this process take? Let's just say if it's me trying to do this versus your software is identifying it, and then you said it takes care of a lot of the back end as well, sending in the uh, I guess the objection letters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it takes so from start to finish when we onboard a new customer, it might take 10 minutes.
Oh,
But by the time that the administrators get our dispute letters,
okay.
it's pretty fast. Yeah, so they have
Yeah.
to identify their business, we pull all their reviews in, our software grades those reviews, and then they have to just push the one button. They just have to push the dispute button, and then our system gets to work. And usually within, from the time that, they registered for a free account to the time that an administrator actually gets an email from us, it could be as
Wow.
fast as 10 minutes. Absolutely.
So it's going to take me about an hour just to look up who I need to send an email to, and hope that I can get it through there too. So that's pretty amazing that it will do it that fast.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty incredible. I think a lot of business owners, just don't have a lot of experience representing themselves, whether
Right.
it's in a court of law or whether it's with an administrator on one of these review sites. And that's because they don't take the time to learn what are the content guidelines? What does the community of service say? Like, what are the reasons why a review qualifies for removal? Most people have no idea.
Yeah.
Once you learn about it, you can become more familiar with it. But then it's not just becoming like familiar with the rules, it's also in the removal letter itself.
Yeah.
Having submit thousands and thousands and thousands of these letters, we know what to say to get them to listen to us, right? To get them to respond to us in a way that provides a good outcome for our clients. We don't have any special relationship with them, but having experience in doing this for years and years and years, we know what,
Right.
sentence in the right order will
Right
actually
language to use to
kind
get
of
to
hold
make
them
it.
accountable, right, to their own terms of service. Otherwise, you're going to get a canned answer where they're going to say, "Thanks for reaching out to us. We're siding with the reviewer on this one," right? So, yeah, it's just a matter of experience at this point.
So how long does it take for the bad review? Once y'all do your thing, send it out. How long does it take for it to fall off?
Yeah, the fastest I've ever seen it is about 90 minutes. And
Wow.
then yeah, real fast, right? So geographically, each business area has its own set of moderators. So certain cities fall within a certain bucket of geography, and
Okay.
their moderators might have a really short queue, and they might get to you right away. Whereas some cities, like right now, Los Angeles, we have some clients who have been waiting almost a week and a half for
Wow.
be able to have their dispute request looked at. So yeah, depending on the city and the size of the queue, it could be up to a week and a half. That's about the longest we've ever seen.
Wow. That's still pretty quick. Still pretty quick.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, Curtis. Well, we appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk to us about, objection.co, but also just about the review process and how we can object. And, we have the right if we think that it's fictitious, especially if it's not, if it's a true, legitimate review that's poor, then the best thing to do, of course, is reach out, try to handle that, try to make it right, because it can actually benefit you when other people see that you've turned this review around. Is there anything else that you want to tell us about before we wrap this up?
No, no, I just want to say thanks, Roy, for having me on your show. If
You
anyone
bet.
wants to reach out, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn, and I'm pretty active on there.
Okay. Yeah. So before we go, what is a tool? I mean, besides objection.co, what is a tool that you use in your daily life that really adds a lot of value to your either business or personal life,
Yeah, yeah. What tool do we use?
or a habit? It could be a habit.
Yeah, yeah. So, let's see here. I would have to say either HubSpot, which is an amazing CRM for our business. It helps us just stay organized with everything in our operations. Otherwise, I'm going to say Python, and Python it's a type of coding that allows us to kind of do anything we want with computers and data. So if without either of those things, I'd be pretty much completely
Okay.
lost.
Yeah, and I
But
have to verify with the I'm a satisfied HubSpot user as well. I think when it's probably been 4 or 5 years ago, I tried like 7, 8, smaller CRMs, and there was nobody that even came close with the tools that they have. So we'll put in a plug for them. Well, one thing I was going to ask, so like for me, smaller clients is one thing, but for like larger clients now, once they sign up, y'all kind of scan through, y'all keep that scan updated. So the minute something comes through, I guess you notify your client, and then they can either hit accept, reject, and that starts the process.
yeah, exactly. And they can
Oh,
even get text notifications that they just got it, and they can just hit a button on their text message,
okay.
and our system will start to
Yep.
take care of it. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And that's Python that allows us to monitor millions of businesses simultaneously. It's a really fun tool.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I just wanted to double check because, like somebody that does a high volume, that is a godsend, just not having to go through all your reviews every day on your own. So, all right. Well, y'all reach out to Curtis. Curtis, tell him one more time what's the name of the business and how they can reach out and get a hold of you.
Sure, sure. So again, my name's Curtis Boyd. I'm the founder of Objection.co, Objection Co. And you guys can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on there. Be happy to connect.
All right. Thanks a lot, Curtis. That's
Yeah,
going to do it for another episode of the Business of Business podcast. Of course, I am your host, Roy. You can find us at www.thebusinessofbusinesspodcast.com. We're on all the major social media platforms, as well as all the major podcast platforms: Stitcher, Google, Spotify, iTunes. If we're not on one that you use regularly, please reach out. I'd be glad to add it on there for you. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of your business.